New freshmen, impact transfers, returning players. Who do you need to keep an eye on with fall camp right around the corner?
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much for making this one of your first listens. Thank you so much for tuning in, for helping us build this community. This is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm so excited for this one. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, all summer long, something for everyone, every day. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's talk about it. Fall camp is almost here. Media days around the corner. Thank you. Football is almost back. Let's go. Let's talk about some of the players I'm really interested in seeing in fall camp. And I want your comments. As always, we'll throw them into a show. Who are you most interested in seeing in fall camp? I kind of broke this down into returning players, new transfers, and impact freshmen. I'm going to start with the returning guys. I have three guys. And listen, there's a bunch of dudes that could be on this list. Let me give you some of the ones not on this list that I'm obviously excited to see, like Bryson Green, right? We'll call this the honorable mention part. Bryson Green is like a career 15 yards per catch guy. I think last year was hampered with injuries. I'm excited to see him. Jake Renfro, super excited to see him. I'm very excited to see what a guy like multiple receivers, what a guy like Vinny Anthony and Quincy Burrows look like. I'm very excited to see what James Thompson looks like, what Curtis Neal looks like now 2 years off of that knee injury, right? Jake Chaney. I love Jake Chaney's game. These are all dudes. So I'm excited to see a lot of dudes. Austin Brown, Braden Moore. But here's the three that I highlighted. The first one is Christian Alliegro. At the end of last year, there was almost unanimous agreement that Alliegro is going to be a starter this season because we saw the athletic tools. This is a guy that the staff went out and found. They loved him. They plucked him late in that cycle. Really versatile guy. We saw him play last year, and it was like eye-popping. It was like, holy, there's something there, right? It's almost like it's something shiny in as you drive it by on the road, and something shiny's off in the distance. You're like, it just catches your eye. That's what he was like on that defense. He stood out. The athleticism and the traits stood out. And then we went and plucked all these transfer guys, and you're like, where does Alliegro fit? I can't wait to see him this year. Another year in the strength and conditioning program. They are very, very high on him. He's going to play. Listen, it's going to be a battle at linebacker for playing time, but that dude is going to play. Can't wait to see what he looks like. Nizer Forkrin is the next one. I don't know if there's been a guy. Chaney would be in this group. Outside of like Chaney on defense, I don't know if there's been a guy this staff has raved about more in the offseason, from Brady Collins to some of the coaches, than Nizer Forkrin. They've raved about the improvements he's made in his game, in his body, how he looks more physical, how fast he is, how good he's looked. I can't wait to see what he looks like lined up against Rico, or lined up alongside Ricardo Holman in that starting kind of secondary, those two boundary cornerbacks. He has unique size and ability. And if he has gotten bigger and stronger, listen, this is optimism season. But if we're putting on the optimistic glasses, if he is a version of what this staff, what Brady Collins has said, what the staff has said, what players that have been interviewed about him have said this offseason, if he's a version of that, this is going to be one of the better cornerback duos Wisconsin's had in a while, with Rico on the other side. And if you factor in the safeties with Hunter Waller, it's going to be one of the better secondaries in the Big Ten. It's going to be one of the better secondaries Wisconsin has had in a while. It's going to be one of the strengths of the team. I got to see it. I got to see what Nizer Forkrin looks like. He's definitely on this list, this short list of guys I'm really excited about among the returning players. And the next one might be a bit of a surprise for people. It's Jack Nelson. I really want to see if I can watch Jack Nelson in practice, see what reports we get. How does he look against the formidable new edge rushers, potentially in Pius, Lowry, an improved Daryl Peterson? What does he look like in those situations? Jack Nelson is one of the keys to the offense, because I think Riley Mahlman is granite solid, right? I don't think there's any question marks there, but there are some lingering question marks based on last year with Jack Nelson. I really want to hear what he looks like, because if he's solid, if he is back to what we thought Jack Nelson would be last year, you remember going into last year, it was the talk of, well, he's probably going to go pro after this year. Like, he's one of the better tackles in the Big Ten. And then it really took a while. We all know the story. I want to see where he's at, because if he's good and then you pair that with Malman on the other side and Renfro in the middle, Brunner and Huber in the inside of guard, I think it's a really good line. But it's so much that hinges on Nelson recovering the form that we thought he would have. So those are the three kind of returning guys I really want to see. Alliegro, Forkran, and Nelson. Obviously, there's a bunch of other ones, but those are the three I highlighted. Let's talk about the transfers. Here's the transfers I'm most excited to see this fall. Get reports on, figure out where they're on the depth chart, hear firsthand accounts of how they're doing. The first one is Brandon Lane. Like, for all the reasons we've talked about for the last year on this show, defensive line, please get some more, right? So you got this dude who was committed to Louisville, Michigan State, had a lot of other offers, a lot of interest, productive as an inside tackle. It was at Stephen F. Austin, right? It was at a spot that doesn't have that level of competition, but he was productive there. And then he had the offer list to back up a pretty good player. He needs to play right away. Doesn't have to be a star. He doesn't have to be an all Big Ten guy, but he needs to be a member of this rotation. He needs to play right away. How does he look? Where is he getting reps? Where is he at on the depth chart? How is he competing against Brunner, Renfro, Huber, those dudes on the inside? He's one of the keys to this defense this year, because they need that guy on the defense line, that 300-pounder who can not move, right? That sawed-off tree stump who can just hold up in the trenches and get our defense to 2nd and 9, get our defense to 3rd and 7, 3rd and 11. You need that first down guy that can stop the run. Brandon Lane is here to help do that. Can't wait to see it. Joseph Griffin, very, very intrigued here. This is the 6'3" receiver that they plucked from Boston College, former 4-star player. The interesting thing here is two things, right? They went and got him for a reason. Right. They went and got him for a reason, and it's to fill a void on the boundary in this offense. They don't have a big guy like that. 2 years ago, he had 18 catches, but 5 touchdowns. He had a touchdown in almost a third of his catches. So is this the red zone guy? Is this the jump threat guy? Is this the jump ball guy? Is this the guy you can throw in certain situations a 50-50 ball to, and he's just going to rip it away from a smaller defensive back? This team kind of lacks that. We thought Bryson Green could be that. Maybe he still can be. CJ Williams potentially. This is a bigger version, and there's been production. There's been production at Boston College, which that's a pretty high level of football, man. Now, not a lot of catches. That offense wasn't very good. I don't think he's a burner, but what can he give us maybe in the red zone? I think I'm really interested to see how they plan to utilize him in a very crowded receiver room. Tyler Van Dyke, obviously, there's another transfer. We don't need to delve into that one too much, but all eyes are always on the quarterback, especially when his transfer coming in, especially when it's a guy with that type of big arm. Here's one. I think it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day with Van Dyke. I think it's interesting that Longo and this offense and this team and this program could have gone in a lot of directions at quarterback, right? They could have went after several different types of players. They targeted Van Dyke and they targeted a big arm, which I'm telling you, I think that's because they are expecting to push the ball down the field more. Right? They're expecting to take more shots, and I think they went out and they got a guy that's going to help them do that. So I'm excited to see what Van Dyke looks like on this team. John Pius is another transfer. Going down the list of transfers, I'm really excited about that. That's an obvious one. I think he is a star. I think he's going to lead the team in sacks. I think he's going to be that edge presence that he's not Zach Bond. He's not that. Don't get me wrong. But I think he gives you that type of edge burst that we haven't had in a while, that, quite frankly, Darrell Peterson, CJ Getz, they could not provide. He gives you kind of an edge bender that is going to open up gaps on an offensive line, because they're going to have to kick step wider. They're going to have to adjust for that speed. They may have to chip him, which is going to delay that opposing running back from getting into the flat, which is going to help with the linebackers. I think he has a domino effect on this defense. I'm really excited about it. And the last one I'm interested in that I want to highlight is Tackett Curtis, because he still feels like he's fighting the injury bug. If he gets healthy this year, and maybe he won't fully for a while, and it's going to take him a while to get into rhythm. But if we start hearing that he's practicing full speed and fall, that he's getting more reps, then we can start to really get excited about what his role could be like in this defense, because he's a dynamo, man. He is an athletic dynamo. Can he be healthy in time to get reps to prepare for the season? Or is it going to be a lingering thing where maybe at that point, maybe we won't see him much this year? Maybe it'd be more of a redshirt year for him, which isn't not the worst thing. Like, if that's what it takes to get him fully healthy and he contributes next year, that's totally good. But we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that in fall camp. What is the status of Tackett Curtis? Is he practicing? Is he starting to get full reps? Where could he fit on this? So very interested. Coming up next, we're going to talk about some of the freshmen that I think can make an impact on the team this year. I'm going to be looking for those dudes in fall camp. We'll talk about those guys next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel remains the number one source for all of your sports betting needs. I love sports. You love sports. We love sports. That's what makes us get along, right? It's not our shared love of cooking or anything like that. It's our shared love of sports. That's what FanDuel.com gives you. Right now, I know it's a little lean time for sports betting, but baseball's still going on, and they have a great summer deal to hook you up all summer long. And then, listen, we're not far off from football. We're not far off from NFL. So if you want to get some futures in, I've talked about the Badgers future a lot over at FanDuel. It's a great place for your parlays, your teasers, your spreads, everything in between. Fast, easy, simple. Go over to FanDuel, FanDuel.com. You're not going to find an easier user interface. That's where we go for all our sports betting. That's where Locked On goes. That's where I go. Fast, easy, simple over at FanDuel.com. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the official sports book of the Locked On Network. Go check it out right now over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's talk freshmen. Let's talk the young kids on the block that I'm really excited to see this fall camp. I have a list of 4 on here, and I love this 24 class. I could have listed several others, but I wanted to keep it small. And as I'm talking, I think I'm adding a 5th. It's going to be hard for me to keep this list small. Now I want to add a 6th. But let me start with the 4 that I highlighted coming into the show. My show notes, I have 4 on this list. I'm going to start with the 2 Ds, Dillon Johnson and Dillon Jones. Let's start with Dillon Jones. I think the 3rd running back spot is really interesting to me. You got Ches and you got Tywee, right? So there's your 1-2. There's your all do everything kind of guy in Ches, and your hammer and Tywee. Who's 3rd? I'm telling you, there's an opportunity here, and I don't want to. I'm not writing off Cade Yakimelli, who I've talked about before. I think he's a really good athlete, really solid all-around athlete, and I'm not writing off Jackson Aker, who does what you need him to do. He's reliable. He's physical. He's got more speed than your traditional H-back, fullback guy. But neither of those players had the recruiting pedigree of Dillon Jones for a reason, right? Dillon Jones was the guy that could have gone just about anywhere. Ridiculously good film. We've had Brian Smith on who said, that's the best guy in that class. Brian Smith thinks Dillon Jones was the best player in that 2024 class. I'm not quoting exactly here, but he said best player in the class, the type of kid that could go to Alabama and play early. That's Dillon Jones to him. Then you turn on the film, and it's like, holy cow, this kid he can do everything. Runs between the tackles, really, really natural. There's no wasted motion with him, but he's very fluid. He's fast enough. He's well built. He can catch the ball. He's talked about his blocking. I've talked to him personally on the show. I've talked to his head coach. He seems wired the right way. There's an opportunity for a freshman running back, and it could be Dupree as well, Darren Dupree, or it could be Gideon Atuka, who I also really like. But I think Dillon Jones is the best all-around back of those 3. I really do. There's an opportunity here for him to potentially get into this mix. Will it happen? It's got to happen early, right? So that's what we're looking for in fall camp. Are reps coming to him early? What is that 3rd string running back? What does that running back rotation look like, right? If the freshmen aren't breaking into that to get reps early, then you're not going to see them for a while during the season, I think. So we have to see it. I'm very curious to see it. So that's the first one. Dillon Johnson's the other. Same point I made with Lane. You need depth on the defensive line, right? You have to build depth on the defensive line. And he's a big part of it, right? I think he is maybe the most important outside of Mabry Metor, maybe Xavier Lucas, maybe Haywood as well. But there's not many players in that 24 class I would say are more important than Dillon Johnson because he's a little older. I've talked about this a bunch, but I want to re-highlight this for maybe those who missed the show. He's coming in older. He's an older prospect. And I know there's people that are a little down on him because of that, because maybe you don't have so much up. I don't even know why. This is what you want. You want a high school defensive lineman coming in at 19, 20 years old if you can get him, right? He's more physically mature. He's more mentally mature. By the way, former elite heavyweight wrestler who's coming in more mature, who I've been told from within the staff, like people are raving about him already from a physicality standpoint. Now it's got to translate. Like, this is not me expecting him to pull a Keanu Benton and start, but can he come in and give you 15 reps, 20 reps a game, 10 plays a game, 15 plays a game? And if he can, that's a massive help as a freshman. That's a huge boost to the defensive line depth. I think he has the potential as a future star on the inside. I truly do. A star meaning like 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick type guy, but an all Big Ten in a couple of years, all Big Ten type interior defensive lineman because he's going to be a little more physical, more mature. He's a wrestler. He's got great strength already. I can't wait to see where he plays and what he looks like in the rotation. Let's see. The two other ones I got on here is Kevin Haywood, who has been, I don't think there's been a prospect that people have talked about more glowingly in the 24 class than Kevin Haywood. Came onto campus early. He already looks like a star. Like I really am excited to see how he competes fall camp. He's been in Madison for a while. How does he handle those edge reps when he's going up against some of the better edge rushers on this team? Really excited to see that. Really excited to hear the progression he's made over the summer. I know this is a player Brady Collins and the staff are really high on. And then the last one's my boy Xavier Lucas. Love that dude. This is a guy who I think could play this year. I think he could get over 4 games because they're going to want to get him ready for next season. And physically, I think he's probably going to be ready. So where again does he fall into that rotation, that depth chart early on? I'm very excited to see that. But you keep going with this, right? I'm excited to see what Mabry Mentor looks like in the reps he gets. Now, fall camp is different than spring camp, right? As you start to get closer to the season, the reps for the younger players starts to become more and more scarce because you're getting ready for the year. You're getting ready for opening day, for what you're going to have to do this season. But I'm still excited to see what reps Mabry Mentor puts on film. I mentioned getting Atuka, Darian Dupree. Very excited about Emerson Mandel. Talk about Dillon Johnson. That's another one, Emerson Mandel, that people have just been over the moon with. Now that they've had him in the program, they've seen some of the early traits and some of the early gifts. So there's a lot of guys. Ernest Willer Jr. is another one. Omillio Agard is another one. I love that dude at corner. So there is a lot of players I'm excited for. But Thomas Heiberger, geez, like that's another one of my favorites. That class is loaded. I love that 24 class. But I'm going to the top 4, just looking at what they could do this year and the type of role they could have. It's Dillon Jones, Dillon Johnson, Kevin Haywood, who could be a backup tackle literally this year, and Xavier Lucas, who I wonder if as the season goes on, if he's going to be able to break into that cornerback rotation. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about beer at Camp Randall, plus media days are coming up. What a difference a year makes. Holy cow, this is a new Big Ten. All that and more coming up on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for friends of the show and a quick second to say thank you. All right, let's jump back into this. Big announcement, and I think on social media, a lot of people have already seen it. Beer in Camp Randall. Like, what a time to be alive. It's 2024, and it is finally here. You can now go to Camp Randall, watch a game, get some varsity ale. Now, there's other beer that will be served. It's a variety of beer, wine, and prepackaged products such as hard seltzer. I'm telling you right now, they should just sell varsity ale. Remember, varsity ale, the program, the NIL program, the Varsity Collective, they benefit from the sale of varsity ale. They should just sell varsity ale, bump up the NIL. We'll use that to fund whatever impact transfer we're going after next, whatever stud defensive end we want to grab. But yeah, I know that's something a lot of people are excited for. A lot of fans are excited for. Obviously, that part of Wisconsin culture is ingrained and intertwined with fandom. It's time, right? It's past time. Will there be incidents? Yes, absolutely, because it's going to be young people. It's going to be sports. It's going to be emotion. It's going to be passion. But you can't insulate everything because of what might happen with a few people. Like, it'll happen. It'll also, I think, be okay. And for the most part, I think a lot of fans are going to be excited for it. Media Day is coming up too, and I was looking at the people going to Media Day. Obviously, we talked about that. Luke Fickell's going. Nelson's going. I was just stepping back for a second and thinking about what a difference, right? A year has made. We're welcoming in 4 new teams. The Pac-12 is dead. We have another new transfer quarterback. It's an incredible schedule. We're going to be going to USC. We're going to be welcoming Oregon in the fall. It's going to be a 12-team playoff this year. It's incredible how much this sport has changed in the last year. We have an EA Sports game, College Football 25 that we're playing. NIL is a thing. I mean, and I know this all didn't literally happen just this last year, but it's interesting to sit back and reflect on it a little bit. As a college football fan of 40, I'm 41. I haven't been a fan for 41 years, but as someone who has watched the sport intently, like a lot of people who watch this show, right? There's a lot of scholars of the game and fans of the game and historians of the game that watch the show. There's people who comment on the show who know the history of it far better than I do. I'm learning things all the time from this community. And I go back and I look at like some of the things that have died in the last couple of years, right? Just, and some of the things that are here, some of the differences, some of the changes, it's really incredible. And for all those reasons, this is going to be one of the most interesting and exciting college football years we've had in a long time. And I can't wait to cover it. I can't wait to be here with all of you as we talk about Oregon, right? And coming to Camp Randall, as we talk about going to USC to whoop up on some Trojans, like going to the Coliseum. I literally can't wait for those moments. And feels like this season has taken a long time to get here, but we're almost there. I'm very excited for it. I'm hoping to see some people. I know August 10th, there's an open practice. You're able to buy tickets for it. I will definitely be there. I think Justin's going to be there. I'm really hoping to see some of y'all there. We'll schedule some type of get together and just kick back, crack a cold one. We'll break bread. We'll talk Badgers. We'll have fun. We'll have a great time. So anyway, a ton has changed. Can't wait for this season to get going. Media Days is here. A bunch of content coming up in fall camp. Coming up this week, we have a family of Logan Powell talking about the decision to come to Madison. We have a scout coming on to break down John Tonje. I'm going to try to get Coach Gothier back on. I think we have a crossover with the Oregon Locked On host coming up. Patrick Herb's coming on, Wisconsin Director of Communications. That's coming up this week. A bunch of content as always. Thank you so much for tuning in on Wisconsin. And when you're done here, go check out Locked On Badgers, our Locked On Brewers, Locked On Bucks, Locked On Packers. Get all your Wisconsin content on the Locked On Network. Thank you so much. On Wisconsin. Let's go.